Hello, chess friends. This is Sir Glenn. This is the part 4 of my installment series of my game analysis or opening study analysis of the variation of Sicilian Najdorf Poison Pong variation. Okay, gusto kong balikan natin yung last position na nakaraan, pero sa mga hindi pa nakakita ng aking part 1, 2, and 3, the stem moves or the foundation moves of this line on question are the following: e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, a6, initiating the Sicilian Najdorf, bishop g5, f4, queen b6, initiating the poison pawn variation, queen d2, queen takes b2, rook b1, and then queen a3. And now white starts his theoretical book style attack: f5, knight takes c6, f takes e6, f takes e6, knight takes knight, pawn takes knight, and then e5. White sacrifices the e5 pawn or the e pawn. And after black takes, white takes the bishop on the knight on f6 with his bishop, and then knight e4. Bishop e7, pinoprotektahan yung f6 pawn. Tapos bishop e2. Okay, so after h5, I was trying to feature yung white's fashionable move nowadays, which is rook f1. And after black replies with f5, white starts another strong attack starting with rook f3. Okay, so dito, as I said in my previous video, dalawa yung posibleng tira ng black dito, no? Only two. Queen takes pawn sa a2 at saka queen a4. So, I've been discussing queen a4 last time. So, after queen a4, white plays knight d6 check. Bishop takes knight. Queen takes d6. And as you notice, white is starting to get in to black's position. White threatens queen takes pawn sa e5 and possibly pressure sa king side ng black. Kain yung rook sa h8. At the same time, threatening rook takes f5 and bishop takes h5 check to follow. So in this position, black needs to give a check on a5 in order to protect the pawn on e5. White avoids the check, king f1. And now, black has two options here. He can play either queen d5, which is I analyzed last time. And now we will look on the position after rook a7. Okay, after rook a7, I showed you a game in which white plays rook b8. And in this position, black has the possibility of playing queen c7. I showed you that queen c7 failed to queen takes e6. Now, black plays king f7. And here I like to point out that in the game, in that game, particular game, um, which is a game between Kam Kamrakulov, rated 2500s or 2509 versus our very own um, international master Nolte, rated 2420. This game was made in Subic, one of the tournaments there. But just in case, let me show you that game. After queen a5 check, rook a7, rook a7, Kramkulov played rook b8, and then his Filipino opponent replied king f7. And Kamrakulov replied bishop c4, threatening rook takes f5. Okay, and then the rest of the games we saw that I'll just give the rest of the game without comments. Pero basically, white was able to pull off a very strong endgame, no? Starting with after queen c7, um, there has been an exchange on e6, which if black will not take, this will be very strong for white. So um, after king g7, queen takes c7, rook takes c7, and then rook takes c8. And then after several exchange, white appears to have a better endgame position than black because of the pressure on the e5 and the h5 pawn. Black has more weaknesses to cover, no? So, and eventually, white won the game um, on the 42nd move. So that's around 12 moves from this position. So let's forget this game for a while and let's go back. In this position, Kamrakulov, I should say, played bishop c4, but both players missed this very strong move, rook takes c8. This sacrifice opens the venue of attacking on the e6 without the ability of black to defend it properly. Because after bishop e6, rook e8, white has a very powerful reply, which is you can either play rook takes f5 or bishop takes e6 first and then rook takes f5. Let's analyze each line. Okay, in case white plays rook takes f5, if black moves over, we can say, for instance, king g6. White will simply take on e6 and will still continue the strong attack. If black plays king g7, which is better than king e6, since the exposure is more little, uh, I can say white may reply. I figured would be I think the same. It's either bishop or rook. I think rook takes e5 is stronger though. So that after rook takes e5, queen c7, rook g5 check, and uh, I don't know if white can continue attacking here, but let's try to move back. Okay, so in this position, I guess after rook takes f5, king g7, rook takes e5, black actually gains a slight advantage after queen d8. Which the question is how to continue the attack. Kasi pag umatras yung queen, let's say to c5, may mga possible na attack na yung black, right? Starting with check and then follow up with rook f8. So actually, black can start with rook f8 check and then follow up by the invasion. The queen will go inside here. It's either queen d2 or queen, which is that makes the position difficult for white. So actually, in this position after queen d8, white has nothing better but capture on d8 and then probably capture on h5, which is I think more or less white is still has some slight pull in this position. But nevertheless, hindi naman na kailangan pasukin yan kasi after rook e8, white would do better to sacrifice his bishop. And after rook takes bishop, rook takes f5, white can actually, let's say, the best line is king g7, and then queen takes rook on e6. Now, as you can see, white's rook and queen teams up against black's king, no? And then black's pieces on the rook on a7, which also guards the 7th rank, but black's queen on a5 is a little bit too late for defense. Let's say, for example, he plays queen b5 check, and white just reply by moving his king and then putting the queen over para humabol ng konti sa atake. White would simply revert to playing an endgame starting with rook takes e5. And after that eventual exchange and rook c7, it goes back to the endgame where it is favorable for white. The h5 pawn is easily attacked by the king. The white king, king h4, king takes h5, and will give white the advantage of connected pass pawns, which is a very solid endgame advantage in the endgame. So that's it. Okay, that's our analysis of that line, and I hope you gain something from it. Okay, now let's go back to this position. Actually, here we analyzed already queen a4 and its consequences. Let's now try to analyze queen takes pawn instead. Okay, now white needs to play a very strong move, rook fp3. Okay, white gives up the knight. Let's try to see what happens if black takes it. Pawn takes knight. White now plays queen e5. Okay, this is a very strong move in both intending rook a1, trapping the queen, the black queen on a2, and queen takes e5 and queen takes c6. White has a lot of threats, no, to consider. Now, the black's best move may be bishop d8, intending bishop a5 with a pin, so that after rook a1, black can play bishop a5. Okay, but in this position, if that was played, white can eventually play either choose queen takes e5. If white queen takes e5, makakapag queen swap yung black, which leads to endgame advantage, material advantage. So that's not possible. So the only left is queen takes c6 check. Now how to reply? Black can either move his king or interpose with the bishop. So let's try to analyze bishop d7 first, interposing with the bishop. If this was played, I think capturing on a8 is a good idea to gain some material. Queen takes pawn, queen takes a6, and then castle kingside. Okay. As you can see, parang nakabawi-bawi na ng konti ng material yung white, and he is just down 2 pawns. Ganun pa rin yung activity niya, but as you can see, white can still swing his rook over to rook g3 and try to attack black. So okay, on this position, white has chances of attack here. A sample variation would be rook g3 check. Also, the best place would be, I think, king h8, and then after king h8, rook d1. Okay, so the bishop on d7 is attack. I-atras natin sa c8, and after queen a3, makikita natin na may compensation kahit papano yung white, no? Let's say for example, black plays rook e8, which is forced. White simply plays rook h3, threatening rook h5, and the rest I leave it to you to analyze. But I guess one can see that white clearly has some compensation into it. Okay, now we will now take a look at the new line, which is instead of giving white so much open line, we will consider knight d5 instead of d takes e5. Okay, and the moves are the following: e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, takes, knight f6, knight c3, a6, bishop g5, e6, f4, queen b6, queen d2 takes, rook b1, and then f5, takes, knight takes, pawn takes, and then e5. Now instead of d takes e5, which is the normal move, we will now try to tackle knight d5. Okay, which is another option for black. If this is the move, then we simply capture it. The recommended move is c takes d5, and then we look at this position. White may play bishop e2. Here, this is the popular line, and we will look at this game on my next installment of the variation. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to click on the link and subscribe to my channel, and also share it to your other chess friends. Okay, thank you so much. This is Sir Glenn signing off.